Reports coming in from around the ship. Enjoyment shields are down to 34%. We have angry rant breaches across the past 3 episodes.
Our pure fucking hubris for coming into this jabroni circus. We knew it would be garbage in here, but they lured us in.
Yeah, pro tip. Don't let your nostalgia get the better of your judgment.
But our intro music was so tight!
Yeah, that music was dope. Ian and Sarah. Peter, we are losing core humor containment here. We are about to be reduced to pissy neckbeards. What the hell do we do?
Think, Joe. What would Janeway do?
Yeah, what would she do? Blow up the ship!
It's the only thing that makes sense. Blow up the goddamn ship. It should restore us to our old timeline. You know, like that year of hell thing no one was supposed to remember.
Yeah. Aye, sir. Preparing for review inversion in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And welcome to Voyager, please. A hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant. My name is Joseph.
The what?
The Delta Quadrant.
The Delta Quadrant, like the junky old Kazon Delta Quadrant?
Yes, filled with Kmart Klingons and I don't know, whatever the fuck that was that had weird shit on its head for like 15 episodes.
Wow, Joe, I never thought I'd be happy to be back in the Delta Quadrant. I'm your co-host, Peter, and I want you all out there in podcast land to take a deep breath in. Let it out. And push that motherfucker Picard out of your memory forever.
If you need therapy, we can't help you, but, we understand. But instead of actual therapy, as a special treat to reset everyone's internal engines, hate engines, and the fact that this is actually going to be our 100th episode when it comes out, got a little special treat. Peter, could you just go over to that console over there? I have 2 guys I'm going to beam in from some place where apparently all the wildlife tries to kill you. Just give me 1 second. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. All right, okay, I've got their patterns.
Good.
Okay.
I'm reading some interesting sensor data here, Joe. There seems to be some sort of a musical instrument in the pattern.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to try not to lose them. I don't think we can we don't have the insurance for that.
BWC can't take another hit. Go easy.
All right. Here we got him. Here.
Oh my god! I suddenly feel like I'm in a different hemisphere, and I feel dead inside. Like my soul could be ripped from my body.
Well, what that actually is daylight savings time.
Oh yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Allow me to introduce our 2 special guests to help us celebrate episode 100. That is Mike and Tarran from Hail and Well Met, who were kind enough to employ Peter and I as voice actors. And we felt it only appropriate to reciprocate by having them come along on a hateful journey with us. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be in the Delta Quadrant and away from watching Picard.
Yeah. I like that it's a pleasure to be away from the coronavirus, or I assume Australia is still like 90% on fire. I don't know.
Well,
all of our 90% on fire, and then the other 10% that's alive is now like super hard bitten and ready to fucking kill you.
Yeah. The fires I think they're mostly extinguished, but then we immediately had a flood. Like one of the guys that we worked with lost the bottom floor to his house like a week after the fires, because it was flooded. It's a mess down here. Yeah. There was the great toilet paper shortage of February 2020 that we had to live through. Hashtag,
oh no, we had that in March. we just had that run. It's hell. We live in a hell world, but fortunately, we're now watching Good Trek, right?
Yeah. it's back to being tolerable. Well, I mean, even Voyager seems like amazingly good after the travesty of Picard. But anyway, we're not gonna be negative and talk
That's right.
trash talk.
That's
It's
right.
it's all good from this point on.
Taryn, I understand you're the one that actually is the big Trek fan of the two of you.
Yeah, I may have been well and truly invested in the Trek world since being a little kid. I blame my parents. Not that there's much to blame. It was a good thing
I
to
do too. I do too. It's terrible what they've done to us.
It's a hard life, and we've just got to struggle through every single day trying to deal with the constant reminder that there was good Trek out there.
And those days are gone.
So far gone.
And they're never coming back, no matter who they employ.
Despite the desperate grab you guys have made to try to revitalize a 25-year-old franchise. Yeah.
Well, as I often say, I've never seen any of this before, so it's all fresh to me, and I'm sorry that you guys are living through painful reminders of what used to be, but as far as I'm concerned, season 4 and forward, I mean, these are 2020 fresh productions. Netflix originals.
Well, it's all new for me. I feel like I need a disclaimer at the beginning of the podcast. I'm certainly not a seasoned hater, and there is still Trek that I haven't watched. So I'm still relatively new to the Trek world. One of the customers that I work with suggested, you're a massive nerd. You'd enjoy Star Trek, and sort of couldn't believe I hadn't watched it before. And he said, like, given that you're new to it, why don't you try watching it in like chronological order? Start with Enterprise, and then like move on to. Road. Yeah, it worked for me.
God.
So
you fucking degenerates started that bullshit on the Facebook group, and like, how dare you expose other people? There could be a children around that
children.
Yeah,
it's not very spacey, is it?
But it has been a long road.
It sounds.
It's not very good either.
It felt like a rejected Rod Stewart cover. Like Rod Stewart had a chance to cover that, and he's like, you know what? No, this is too cheesy for me. I don't think I'm going to do it.
It truly is the Picard of Star Trek theme music.
Too cheesy
for
Rod Stewart. Too cheesy for Rod Stewart. Wow, that's
Rod
pretty
Stewart
cheesy.
was my first concert.
Hey, nice.
Yeah, I had to. We'll skip that story.
Don't worry,
painful memories coming up.
No one gives a fuck. Here's the fun part of that story. I watched a lady trip down hockey bleacher stairs and hit her head on the corner of that heavy plastic thing, and I figured that she would have had to go to like the hospital or something after she cracked the shit out of her head. And later on, they were letting people like kind of dance around the stage by Rod Stewart, and her drunk crazy ass crawled up on stage and pulled his pants down, and then she got shackled by security.
Oh, nice. I thought you were going to be like, yeah, she was up there throwing her panties, and up she went full pulling the pants down of Rod Stewart. So
yeah, she went.
I doff my hat to you, madam, wherever you are.
Mike, I see you have a musical instrument.
I do. I was thinking, I don't know whether it's tradition. It should be tradition that whenever you guys have like a special guest, see, I'm fucking it up for all the future special guests now, but maybe they should attempt to play poorly the Voyager theme on their like instrument of choice.
Okay.
So I thought I might have a go. So brace yourselves, everyone.
Okay.
Ah, shit. I've already
All right, perfect. I was about to say, this is fucking terrible, but you stuck it at the ending.
There you go.
Nice recovery. Nice recovery.
Yeah.
Anybody out there, if you're interested in acquiring that for your ringtone on your cell phone, we'll make it available for $7.99. PayPal.
Probably monetize from this point forward.
No Casper ads for us, but we will be selling terrible ringtones.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you need to do is, like, ladies and gentlemen, become a patron, and this fantastic ringtone can be yours as well. Gotta get that money. Yeah.
Before we launch into talking about our episode here, why don't you take an opportunity to tell our listeners about your podcast, and it's many, because you guys are men of many talents.
I'm going to let Tarran take this away. He's better at marketing.
I was going to say we're men of many commitments. Our ability to follow through on them is somewhat hampered by life, kids, work, and viruses, floods, fires, and the rest of the killer animals that want to
Australia shit.
But yeah, we do a D&D based story driven podcast. I've got to add that in because the D&D purists sit there and get a bit annoyed at us because we don't do dice rolls every 5 seconds of the game, which, while fun, is also incredibly boring at times. So it's
thank God you don't. That's why I like your show.
Yeah.
Like, allow me to be the one to say, like, that's why I like it.
And that's why we like doing
you.
it, because kind of rule of cool is how we handle 99% of everything we do. If it's fun, then sure, let's go do it. So we started that podcast up about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, something around that. No, 2 years ago. It's all gone like a blur. But where I DM the storyline and make sure things sort of stay on track, and Mike voices Kelgar the Barbarian, who is this massive dragonborn, flame-breathing, anti-charismatic. We have a few other voices on there, and at the end of the day, it's a good, fun listen through. But on top of that, as you two have been involved in, we also do
Oh my God.
short
Do
story.
we have to pay you guys for ad space?
Oh, yeah.
Far out.
I mean, let's
Sorry,
be real.
Tarran.
You let us plug ourselves before your show.
course.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a reciprocation here in this world that I'm trading stories with you. That's what's pleasurable.
Before we
to
go
me.
too deep into this, I want to swing back to the D&D portion.
Yeah.
And I think most of our guys out there are gamers to some point. So we've gotten several writing questions about this. The system that you guys are running, is this D20?
It's we used to D20, but no, we're pen and paper on the table.
No, I mean it's a D20 system.
Oh,
you guys
yes.
running third ed, fifth ed?
Fifth,
All right, good.
it's a fifth edition, pure D&D setup. But
Okay. And then I do have another question here from one of our listeners. That I'm assuming that we have incorporated the Book of Erotic Fantasy from 2006. That's always a fan favorite.
they haven't discovered it yet, but it's always a way of showing
Some good feats in
showing up
there.
in the story somehow.
Some great feats and plot hooks in that one.
Yeah, the other one is the Shorts podcast, which is this short story compilation podcast of varied authors, and it's sort of open to anyone. So, literally anyone, listener or not, has a story idea that they've always wanted to do something more with, but haven't got the balls to get off the couch and do something else with it. We try to badly voice act it and turn it into an audio drama, which.
And it's badly. You're underselling yourselves. You guys did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed working on the one that we did for appreciation and your talent in not just. I know, Tarran, you wrote that one.
I did, yeah.
But writing an engaging audio drama, but then engineering it in that way is no small feat. So everyone should listen.
Yeah,
absolutely. And those are great because you can just pick up whatever one of those and listen through.
Exactly.
It doesn't require you to invest yourself in a whole series.
No, it's individual stories. I think the shortest one we've got is about 12 minutes long. The longest one on there's about 45 or something like that. So it's kind of pick your theme, pick your pick what you want to listen to for the day, and go ahead, have a listen, have a bit of fun, put it down, come back to it 6 months later and listen to another one or whenever you want to. So don't have to. They're not serialized. They're not linked in any way, shape, or form. But they're just there to have a bit of fun and a bit of a listen to.
Well, with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and let you two gentlemen from Down Under bring us into our discussion.
Sure thing. All right. Well, in that case, Mikey.
Hello.
Should I call you Mikey? Is that too colloquial, too casual?
Tarran, we've known each other long enough for you to call me whatever you want.
Yeah, you should see me winking at you. Okay. Mikey, what did we listen to this week? No, we're not listened to. We didn't listen to anything. We're talking now and listening. Sorry, guys.
We listened and watched.
What did we watch this week?
We watched Season 4, Episode 24, Demon.
Boy, howdy. I put a post up on the trauma support group, and it's the classic "not sure if" meme, and it was not sure if great episode or just not Picard, and that was not a joke. Like, I'm sitting there watching this thing, and I just stop, and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, is this really a good episode, or did Picard really leave such a bad taste in my mouth that, like, looking at a bubblegum wrapper could have been a good Star Trek experience?"
So I mean, because we were like super nervous about making sure we did a good job with you guys, I must have watched it maybe 4 times. I don't know how many times Tarran watched it, but like the first time I watched it, I was right there with you. I was like, this is good. It's like proper Star Trek, you know. But then the third and fourth times I watched it, I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like some of the decisions. But anyway, we'll get onto that.
It was everything a classic Voyager episode can be, and that made it so precious to me. Like, after we've been through so much with Picard, and then watching this, it was like it really was coming home to the loving embrace of your grandmother, except she stinks of cigarettes and her cooking is still bad, but it's so familiar. Yes, bring me in. Yes, excellent. Like, that's what it felt like. It was classic in the sense that it had some really interesting ideas and then some really batshit loco ones, and didn't explain itself super well. And instead of being annoyed with it, I loved it because of these things.
Nice. More
I think
power
on that
to you.
scale of relativism, you have sort of you have good in the middle, you have Picard at the very, very far end of terrible, and Voyager generally, and this episode specifically, is still on the not good side of the line, but it's much further, much closer to the good side.
Something that I've noticed as we have done, the past 100 episodes of Voyager is that there's 2 types of good. There's a legit good type of Star Trek and sci-fi in general to watch. And what's interesting is that's not always a good kind of Star Trek to talk about on a podcast and hold people's attention. So the other type of good, the podcast good, is like just something real meaty that you can sink your teeth into, and there's cool stuff to talk about, and then you can do fun criticisms and thought exploration, like what the fuck were they thinking, which certainly this episode is a bullseye in the what the fuck. Like, the last 2 minutes are just completely fucking bonkers. Like, I would say it's almost crazier than fucking Threshold was. So
because it's the last 45 seconds. It's like they're like, and boop. Like, this is how it ended. Like, and literally the ship flies off and there's no fucking explanation. Just like, okay. I want to start off with what we have. You know what? Let's start off with the concept of the episode. This is basically an episode about Voyager running out of gas, right?
Space gas.
Legit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's duration and duress is supposed to be the theme of the show, and they've ran out of everything else. So I assume that it's appropriate at some point we have to worry about gasoline.
Yes, space gas, whatever the hell it is, right? They ran out. It makes sense. There's none of us that could possibly have found any reason to object to that.
Or is there? Because, and sorry to cut you off, but I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that we finally get an episode that specifically deals with the resource crunch kind of idea, right? I mean, and I know you guys have talked about this countless times in previous episodes. I guess my pet peeve with this idea coming up now is we're 4 years into this. Surely by now it would have made more sense to have this kick in a season 1 or a season 2 episode, which conceptually I think would have worked better. But it's this whole idea of these guys running out of. I think I called it when I was taking some notes, some space MacGuffin, because it kind of felt like we need a plot hook and that's as good as we're going to get, because. A number of things really, really bugs me with it. Realistically, first of all, surely the ship would have been able to make some sort of announcement to the crew or some sort of alert or something here that would have given us a lot more advance notice than hey, we're all about to run out of petrol, and you're all going to die. Just
Yeah, the
straight up.
space fuel light could have popped up on Balana's console or whatever.
Yeah, and maybe that's broken.
Yeah.
Boop.
Yeah.
Can someone give me a real quick? 'Cause I haven't actually looked up what this was. Deuterium, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What? Where does that fit into the science of warp physics?
Let me scroll down.
Yeah,
on my
I thought
page.
it was about dilithium, right? But then again,
No,
No,
it's
it was
deuterium.
specifically deuterium was what they...
Oh no, I know, but I thought their warp core used dilithium.
My understanding of dilithium... Hold on.
Okay,
I gotta
here
find
we
my
go.
neckbeard real quick.
We're
Hold
getting
on, hold
nerdy.
on. Hold on. Guys, so just be a second. All right, here. I got it on now. Okay.
Nice.
Uh,
Hey, that's a good look.
actually, dilithium is the element by which it catalyzes the warp reaction. It's not actually the fuel.
Right.
Now I'm going to take a fucking shower and I'll be right back. So, hold on.
Hey, can you pass me the neckbeard for a sec?
Okay, here you go, buddy. I got you. Here it is.
So you're right, and that's exactly how it works. The deuterium is the fuel source that fuels the matter-antimatter reaction that is then channeled by the dilithium into the warp core, and bam, it rides the lovely warp shockwave that the nacelles create through the whole reaction process. But
I'm just gonna pick my brains up off the floor.
And we fucking just knew that. I mean, what useful knowledge has escaped my brain because I know that dilithium is not the fuel, but the catalyzing reagent for warp drive.
Exactly.
Like, when I say the others, like, I don't remember my dad's birthday, but I remember that. Like, I'm a terrible son, is what this is about.
well, given that your parents put you onto Star Trek to start with, it's ultimately their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got him. I'll teach you.
Mm-hmm.
My question keeps coming back to, though, why do they have a deuterium shortage in the first place? Because clearly the writers didn't bother to do their own research on their own show. Again, recurring theme through this.
Situations like this and cutting them the benefit of the doubt, I think it's fair to assume that, this might have been a situation that came up before and has already been addressed, but it's sloppy writing in that they didn't say just some throwaway line, it's been too many planets since our last fill up. We were in some sort of shortage sector, or it's one little line. Yeah. Exactly what we're getting to in this running out of gasoline, something this important and having it kind of feel like it's been dropped in our laps is silly. And this is a Kenneth Biller or Kenneth Bewilder, as we like to call him, episode. And I think it fits very nicely in his catalog of there's a really good plot he wants to tell, and sometimes the details to make it a nice tidy net to hold the episode aren't really there and locking in. I think it's interesting when they start going through their power control steps they're taking to make this thing work while they're riding empty. They go into what they call a gray power mode, and that's kind of like their super energy efficient. And did you notice when they were talking about the systems that they were cutting that holodecks got mentioned?
I didn't notice that.
Yes, I did notice that after all of the, this thing is not a thing that we can control or use to our advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a big part of the first couple episodes of Voyager, was explaining, because there are a lot of holodeck interactions in this series, was that the holodeck matrix uses some specific power source that has no application anywhere else in the ship, and that's why they're allowing this power-rich environment to exist, is because it doesn't factor into anything else.
I was going to say, you're absolutely on the money. There was a line in, I think, one of the opening scenes where KJ, as I'm going to call her now, thanks Raffi, where she says,
I veto this.
Okay, all right. Where Janeway says, she asks something about how are we going looking for alternative fuel sources, and I'm thinking why wouldn't they have changed that line to something like, how is the research going into alternative fuel searches or something, so that it's not a knee-jerk reaction to what's happening in this episode, but it establishes that they've known that they're eventually going to run out of fuel, and what have they been doing about it. But there doesn't really seem to be any of that, unless I missed it.
But
I would also say another good way for them to have gotten themselves out of this is just some sort of fire on the ship or accident compromising their existing stockpile, and that's what's created an emergency shortage.
Yep.
Yeah, it was not explained. They're just out of gas, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess we need gas, or we're all going to die.
Bum,
Oh
bum,
no,
bum.
guys.
I was going to say, and this episode specifically needs that because literally 2 episodes back, at 22, Unforgettable, the Chakotay gets a secret girlfriend episode. The start of that, if you throw your mind back, the start of that episode.
Chakotay's Canadian girlfriend, you wouldn't know it.
Exactly.
Yeah, Chakotay's Australian girlfriend. Let's be on brand here.
Sorry, wrong colony.
That whole episode kicks off with Harry having a chat with, I think it's Chakotay, saying that we're running short on deuterium and has some technobabbly sort of stuff, but where Seven made some modifications to the Bassard collectors and increased their efficiency by 23%, and then he goes and says that they're now full. Or almost full, and he needs to go and have a powwow with Seven about how full they are and how can we detect it better and all that sort of stuff. So literally 2 episodes back, deuterium was fixed. This whole fuel shortage was fixed, and the episode between that and now was our 700 Years in the Future Doctor episode. So we got to assume nothing important happened in the universe, right?
But when Harry was giving that speech, did he have an eye patch on?
He did not.
Okay, well then we're fine. Okay,
I mean,
this deuterium thing's a no issue. We're in safe waters. They start doing their. It's so fucking bad. They start doing their emergency control. They're turning off power on decks. People are having to leave their quarters. We get Tuvok needlessly hassling Neelix in the hallway for whatever fucking reason.
Yeah,
and again, I'm going to spare everybody my Tuvok, Neelix rant. Like, these guys should know each other inside and out, but like, why is Tuvok gotta be a ball buster about fucking Neelix's blanket? Like, who gives a that?
That his mum made.
that his mum made. It's literally his like security blanket, and they were the same person, so he should know what it means. And
yes,
and furthermore, how does that use any fucking deuterium? Like, what does he give a fuck if the guy's got a pillow?
Who cares that you have your fucking book, your physical paper book? Like
your book
Jesus.
that could go inside your. Like, you want him to be uncomfortable with your shitty institutional blankets. You're telling him he can't fucking have a book. Tuvok, quit being such a fucking Nazi and like persecuting you. Like, literally, no, we need that for energy. Throw that book in the bonfire.
Just fucking die. I don't know what else to say.
The end result is Neelix getting the bright idea that he does not have to go to whatever communal home they're trying to shove him into, and that he's going to go and try and live in the sick bay where he's going to have more space and a better bed.
I guess this was before the credit teaser, right?
Yeah, it was. So we have a few scenes before the credit teaser. There's like the bit where Voyager's flying through space, the lights go out and they work out they're running out of fuel. Then we got a scene in the hallway, which is the Tuvok scene where the flop house relocation, as I like to call it. And then there's the scene in Astrometrics with Chakotay, basically giving 7 of 9 a hard time, even though she's going to save the day. And then we cut to
with
the
some
credits.
very close talking. I don't know.
Very
the
close
closest.
Talking.
He's
like,
been going to the Catherine Janeway school of no personal space. That's part of the deuterium shortage is, they got to conserve heat maybe and be as close as physically possible in that big ass Astrometrics bay.
Yeah, well, when they run out of, Neelix's books and pillows and security blankets to burn, then, what else are they going to do?
I do love that we hit the trope right off the bat about 7 of 9 decided to just completely disobey orders and do what she wanted to do, and there was minimal pushback on that. It was basically she got to be like, well, hey 7, would you mind doing the thing we told you to do? I know you've consistently been, completely subordinate to everything that we've asked you to do for this entire season, but maybe this time you can do what we say. And she's like, no, bitch, I'm fucking smarter than y'all. I'm going to find this fucking gas. And then immediately does, like, by the way, I fucking found it. What's up?
The whole idea that they would shut down astrometrics seems silly. I mean, they put all this resources into a long-range telemetry situation like this. It's a perfect fit. It was very difficult for me to watch this scene where it's crystal clear that she is a dispassionate scientist. She is a woman of methodology and science and exploration. You know, and to know that an hour earlier I watched that fucking episode of Picard where she's just a gun-toting Punisher lunatic. Like, man, I don't want to keep talking about Picard, but
it's relevant in this specific case because you're right, Peter. Like, and this is what made it so disgusting. Like, everything you know about 7 of 9 from this point forward, you know, is unknown to you for the most part. But allow me to spoil for you that, like, her core characterization of her competencies doesn't really change. And the idea that she's fucking Space Batman in the future instead of
Punisher.
like, yeah, Space Punisher, sorry. Instead of working at the fucking Daystrom Institute or at some think tank or doing science shit is mind-boggling. And it shows a complete lack of maturity in writing.
Yep.
I mean, I haven't seen all of Voyager. I'm sort of watching it with you guys so I can, you know, enjoy the podcast, right?
Aw.
And I oh yeah. Can you feel the love all the way across the
I
ocean?
can.
I can smell the dog
Okay.
shit that you're tracking around as you walk through turds with us.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I had just assumed that something happened in the Voyager, like later on down in the Voyager plot, of you know, causing her to become Space Punisher, like, because I had no idea. Like when there was that horrific scene of you know, her son or whatever getting you know, basically pulled apart in Picard, I then thought, oh, maybe she has a kid, or, you know, I don't know, and I don't want to spoil it for people that are also in my position, but that's what I had sort of assumed. But hearing you guys talk about it and the stuff that Tarrant's had to say, that doesn't seem like it's the case.
Nope.
Well, that is the case for Picard, is that nothing makes sense. It's bizarro.
It makes me hate it even more.
So she has had a gotcha bitch moment there on Chakotay as all of a sudden the sensor banks off and she says, look, there it is. We've got a perfect source of deuterium. And Chakotay is like, oh, that's a no-go because we are talking about not the normal Class M planet that we're always going on to, but was a Class Y demon class?
Correct. Demon class planet.
The worst thing and the biggest sin that I think they commit here, again, putting my super nerd hat on, I had to go and do some maths for this one. But, you know, 7 employs her employment contract with Paramount for her 5 minutes of screen time. And this source at this demon planet is 0.4 light years away, right? Now, we found out at the start of the episode, Paris turns around and says, hey, we can only go like 1/4 impulse for a week or something pretty slow like that, right?
Correct. Yes.
So, quick research. According to Voyager canon, full impulse is 0.8 speed of light. So 1/4 impulse is 0.2 speed of light. This planet is 0.4 light years away. It takes the speed of light 0.4 years or 146 days to travel that distance. Traveling at 0.2 of that speed means Voyager is traveling at a constant 1/4 impulse, taking 730 days to reach that planet at maximum speed they can do. And given we can do a few weeks at 1/4, obviously I've done my maths wrong because, you know, it couldn't have been sloppy writing. It just can't.
Think about the sequence of events there. They specifically put the speed in the episode that they're stuck going, and then decided to specifically put the distance to their location. And not one of these fucking jabronis actually thought for a second, hey, does our speed make sense with the distance we've chosen here?
Yeah, but look,
is that the case?
Was Chakotay's sister there, like, dry humping him? No? Hit Chakotay's Maquis sister wasn't there, like, being sexy breathy with him? No? Okay, well, you know what? Fuck your space math. We're fine. It's not Picard. Move along.
Yeah. There's totally...
Space math has...
Excellent counterpoint, my pedigree chum. You did it.
Yeah, there's
Space
totally...
math has never been Voyager's strong point,
No.
and thankfully I'm bad at math too, so I've been blissfully ignorant of it until you just rubbed my face in it. So
Yeah, I didn't think
Damn
in the
you.
writers' room, they were like, "Hey, do you reckon there's going to be like 4 massive fucking nerds talking about this
30
in 20
years
years'
from
time
now.
on a podcast, doing the math, calling us on it?"
But this is Star
Oh.
Trek. How did they not think that?
Well, that's a good.
Yeah, I guess that's like, yeah, especially at this point, it's not like they're making TNG and they're like, I don't know how dedicated this new wave. This is 2 shows deep after that point.
Yep.
They know. They have writers like that are working like Brian Fuller at this point that came up like idolizing, Berman era Trek, and this is like their first big break is working for them.
Well, you
They
can like
fucking
Berman
know.
era Trek and still be bad at math, all right, man. That's the school I'm
That's the
coming from.
lesson. Okay,
I mean,
I like that. That's the lesson. That's good.
We get into the the conference room scene where they're trying to come up with a battle plan on how they're going to deal with this, and nobody's really got any great options. The demon planet gets thrown out there, but they dismiss it until, and credit where credit is due, I think. Harry Kim gets up, and I mean, really at the end of it, this is the episode where Harry Kim grows a backbone, and it is some massively deserved character growth, and not only like him getting up on his soapbox and saying like, here's my ideas and here's how it's going to be, and even though I'm an ensign, I'm still sitting at the big boys table and it's time for my voice to be heard. But we'll later get a scene in the turbo lift where Paris calls him on, and he's like, Jesus, what did you drink this morning when you're full of all this piss and vinegar?
big bowl juice.
And in a excellent moment of self-recognition and world recognition, he's like, listen, man, I've been to Cougar Planet and turned into an alien. I died. I ruined a civilization's death belief myths. I've been sucked out into space. Like, he recaps a good 4. I've been to prison. I had to fight Jesus.
Hey, remember when you and me got locked into prison together and I had to threaten to kung fu fight everyone to get us
I had
out?
to help clean up all those guys Lon Suter killed after we gave the ship away both times. But the end result is Harry's balls drop, basically.
Yep.
And it is wonderful to watch.
The credit needs to be given to Garrett Wang specifically in this case, because they give him a lot of opportunity in this episode actually to like, there's this like basically 2 long scenes he has where he just gets to bro down with Paris and like express himself. And there's another good scene at the end. While the ending is baffling, his performance is good. And I guess it's particularly notable because you and I have bagged on him so much, and I think deservedly so, for being the show's weakest actor. And this was him stepping up, and like the writers did him a solid with what they put him in this episode, and he rose to the occasion, and it is really good.
Speaking of acting chops as well, I gotta also hand it to Robert Bell. Is it Belgrave?
Beltran.
Beltran.
Beltran. Sorry, I gotta hand it to Robert Beltran. So like, I don't know whether his acting was more on point in this episode because he was given like more of a part in the episode to play, or whether or not the way the episode was written and just the circumstances of the story played up to the way he acts the Chakotay character, because he seems stronger and better in this episode. Like, I didn't find myself rolling my eyes at him too much.
Calm and
which
confident.
I usually do.
I didn't roll my eyes at you too much. Good job.
Chakotay,
Mm-hmm.
at some point, I want to say it was end of season 2, we gave him our MVP. And I think that with the exception of his secret Australian girlfriend episode, which I just didn't like overall, I mean, he's been solid in everything that we've seen that minus the World War II one. I think he was a little two-dimensional on that. But yeah, anytime he's got a chance to be a yes man and a point man, he does well. And I think that the interactions that we've seen between him and B'Elanna, especially when they're strained, have been coming off especially good.
Yeah.
But the end result of the Harry sales pitch on how to get this deuterium is to specially outfit one of the junkiest shuttles they can and launch him and Paris off into space to go down to the planet's surface and collect the stuff in person. And it's Paris he volunteers because, as we found in the what were those guys? The hunter dudes.
Hirogen?
The Hirogen. As we found in the Hirogen episodes, there are only 2 spacesuits for Star Trek. They came from Star Trek First Contact. They're very expensive, and you can have as many people in spacesuits as you want as long as only 2 of them are visible on screen at any time. So it's going to be Tom and Harry going off in this death cart to get a gas run so they don't have to end up trying to push Voyager back home.
It's worth pointing out that they did have they tried to beam it up first,
Yep.
and it just fucked up the transporter, and like they did like try to like they put in that scene that we always fucking complain about them not having of like why did they didn't do the simple thing first? And they're like, let's do the simple thing first. That didn't work. Oh no! Now we must put our people in danger.
But they did
So
the
they
simple thing in the
stacked-
worst way possible, where they tried to beam this stuff into beam evil deuterium with gas.
Quiet. No. Shh. Don't take this away from me. Don't take this away from me.
My
Well, we
only
did have
concession
another
to that scene is
exploding
that
console.
Seven managed to get her additional 2 minutes of scene time as per her
She
contract.
did.
It's true.
We did have another exploding console as well. I've been keeping track of those.
Yeah, the whole transporter array just there was like 3 IEDs that went off in there. It was fucking bad.
Beaming poison gas up into the room, I think, is a good reason for an explosion.
But a bad reason to have 2 people in the room.
Or anyone in the room. Like, why not go, hey, we're beaming, acid gas or whatever the chemical is. We're beaming it into the room. Why don't we, beam it remotely or beam it into a containment
Because
vessel?
it's a Starfleet. They signed up for the fun stuff like this, man.
This is a good point.
Same reason they don't have robots or holograms. Or same reason they don't send the doctor out to the fucking poisonous surface where humans can't survive. Or Tuvok, who's, a mega Vulcan and can survive in the most harshest of conditions, as we found out in the elevator. They go out on the shuttlecraft. We have a very uneventful landing. When I say uneventful, I mean cheap. There's no exterior shots of the shuttle, really, as they hit all this turbulence. And they're just, sitting there. They shake the camera around. They're like, okay, we landed and kept it under budget. Good job. Get our expensive...
Hey, listen. After watching that episode of Picard where they had this entire space chase that involved 0 shots in space, this was so much more forgivable.
Fair enough. But they get out onto a very familiar planet, Hell. It's the same cave we always see, but that's about where it ends. I thought that the surface of this demon class planet looked fucking badass. I love the red overcast skies. I love the filters they used. There's some pools of mercury laying around, which are going to become a real big deal later on. And them in their spacesuits, it's just ridiculous. You never see this kind of stuff in any sort of Trek, and it worked. And even though it was simple lighting changes, I loved it all.
I think you get some true appreciation from Harry later in the episode. I think he really brings it together nicely for you.
The pools of silver that they have laid out, and they show, and instantly a hand or some shit's coming out of there. Like, one way or another, these guys
that is a danger pool. Yeah. That is where the space danger is. It's in here, guys.
They're not putting liquids on these sets. Yeah. They're not putting liquids on these sets unless someone is going to end up drowning in this thing. And the first thing I think of, it's like, I could actually go for an Aramis Skin of Evil. Like, this is the other race of the silver ones to the TNG black ones. They've got some playful banter going back and forth.
Playful
it doesn't
banter,
bother
or
me.
was it lame?
Oh, come on. No, it was playful banter. It was B-. It was B- level.
This is earned interactions. We've been through enough Harry and Tom buddy episodes, and I think they've stuck the landing enough time that it's been a while since we've circled around to something like this hot and heavy. So I would say we're due, and I've got no complaints. Neither of them was vaping, so hey, we're straight, okay? But they do the classic, we're gonna focus on Tom's face. Harry hasn't said anything. He looks back. Harry's gone, And wouldn't you know it, Harry ended up in the GAC. And we get a suit breach. Unlike the time Tom and B'Elanna got stuck out in space trying to fish the warp core back by themselves for some reason, instead of having 4 hours of a slow death, it's like, yeah, you got 3 seconds and now your air is gone. And also, Tom, you're going to have a suit penetration too, and you guys can just lay there dead on the floor. Up in the sky, this was a bewildering moment. You know, we've criticized. I've criticized Janeway many times at this point about just making these unilateral decisions without really consulting the crew. I think sometimes she forgets where the conference room is, and it's just like, I think I want to do this. Yeah, we're going to do this. And this might be one of the most extreme cases, her just making a snap decision.
Well, this is literally a decision of, well, you know, we might get fucked. Whatever. I guess this is where we get fucked, right? This is where we all die if we die. Land the fucking thing.
I love how her two options are like, Chakotay goes down with another shuttle. And also, by the way, just by the by, I don't think, did they get the shuttle back? Because I know that like a chump, they leave the fucking door open. Did you guys notice that? So like
like any hobo could have come in there. What the fuck?
Well, isn't it meant to be like, super hot and, it's going to melt all the vinyl and, fuck up the carpet and all that sort of stuff?
They're not getting that deposit fee back on that shuttle.
No, they're going to have to pay the cleaning charge. But, what was I going to say? Yeah, so she has her two options, because there's always two. It's like Chakotay goes down with another shuttle, or they stay up in space, run out of fuel, and die. And I'm thinking to myself, Harry was able to make the shield modifications or whatever to the spacesuits. Like, why not make those modifications, and the shuttle, why not make those modifications to the probe that they were going to send down, and send the fucking probe down, right? Send the fucking probe down.
With the doctor on it. With his mobile emitter attached to the front.
Whatever. Yeah. You've got a miner, he's a little computer program that fits in a tiny widget. Yeah. You send him down there, and he can grab a pickaxe and just go at it, or whatever the fuck he needs.
As you've already said, will later come to be the case for certain Mark 1s.
Yeah, that's literally canon for Mark 1s. They get to be miners. We know they can do it.
I don't want to shit on this episode harder than we are, because again, I do ultimately really enjoy this episode. This is a ramrod moment, and there was a decision in the writer room that, hey, we've got some budget that we've accumulated after that very budget friendly Doctor and Future episode that we're going to record at the local library. We want to do Voyager lands on the surface of a hostile planet and gets stuck in the mud episode. So yeah, Janeway's like, fuck it. Just even though we spent like a whole scene talking about how this planet is full of acid and gas that are going to rip everything to shreds. Yeah, take the whole fucking ship down there. And I would have never thought, because we've had 2 landings up to this point. There was the one where the Kazon dinosaur planet, and then the fucking 37s, right? That was a landing episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that's the 2 times we've landed the ship. I never would thought I'd say the words, there was a very exciting landing sequence on Star Trek Voyager, but I thought it was pretty fucking cool.
I absolutely thought it was cool. The CGI was, although it looks like it's from that era now, man, I thought they did a good job. Like, it was pretty cool.
And they also didn't reuse their shots from 37s, just like Peter said, and considering like how bad those were and how obvious the reuse of them was in the past, it's like they automatically get extra credit for trying. Like, the tyranny of low expectations is real in this case.
I want to apologize right now. We've been off on Picard for 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah, too fucking long, but yeah.
So, all that discussion we had earlier about why would she land the ship on Poison Planet, unnecessary. She's the fucking trap queen. What a primo opportunity.
Of course.
To fuck the crew. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see it. I think sense. This is where we all die. So let's go.
I'm sorry. What did you say, Chakotay? Land the ship and get us stuck in space goo? No,
don't mind if I do. Yeah.
I don't know. Chakotay
is there nobody else who?
pretty keen, right? When as soon as she says it, does he stop her? Does he go, oh, I don't know, maybe we should? No. He like runs to the comm and is all like, hey, I wish Tom could see this. And just like starts
doesn't
going
want to risk.
Tom, I'm touching your buttons, Tom. Oh, I'm looking at my fingers and putting coronavirus all over your non-holographic display, Tom. Oh, I'm getting my hand drugs all over your thing. You're going to have a spirit question when you come back. That was a really cool landing, though. And I think it was a fun landing because even though it's a ridiculous situation to land the ship on the ultra dangerous planet, like it's still, I mean, she's got a clear point. Like, you can die up in space and be fucked without gas. And we've already talked at length, like, if starships can't go warp, you're fucked. Like the whole omega particle conundrum and like why that was so dangerous. So yeah, this is you got to play all your cards because you got one shot at this. They pull it off. It looks cool. The acting on the bridge is good. And we get some follow-up scenes where Janeway's like, all right, Chakotay, go find our missing crew members who are probably dead at this point, but it'll only be you and one other person because we only have 2 suits we're allowed to use. So B'Elanna, who this is the first time Roxanne Dawson's been back on the show since she had her kid.
Yeah, still sporting the coat for continuity reasons, but clearly not pregnant anymore. So they shot her low on purpose to be like, aha! See, she wasn't pregnant, guys. That was just your brain playing tricks on you.
The ship's all fucked up too, right? Like they've got tons of problems. So, when she goes to Dakota and she's like, "You got to let me go because I got to help you find Tom." He's like, "No, you're too hot-headed." And she's like, "What? Me hot-headed? I didn't even throw a cup at you." And he's like giving her this big long speech about why she can't go find Tom because she's too close. How about the fact she's the fucking chief engineer and like 95% of things are broken right now, and she's got a better place to be than like going on a safari.
No, that's not needed. She's got Vorik to handle the transporter repairs, and everything else is easy.
Yeah, we had the reappearance of everyone's favorite rapist Vulcan. I'm sorry, unsuccessful rapist Vulcan. He shows up to just spice his scenes up with little I'm Vulcan, here's my matter of fact declarations of our demise, moment is always nice, but the next big twist, is that it is Chakotay and 7 of 9 who go out in the 2 spacesuits after, and they stumble across I
will point out that it was B'Elanna's recommendation to take 7, and that I feel that's important to note because they have had heavy conflict in the past, specifically coming from B'Elanna being hostile towards 7. So it's good character development. Man, I'm saying good, great, appreciate, credit due. Like, what a little fanboy I am. Like, I feel like I just got out of fucking solitary confinement or like waterboarding. I'm like, oh, good, I get to sleep on a stone.
Picard waterboarded you. No, I like it. That's canon. That's what the show is like. It's like being slowly drowned. But you're not actually dying, but you feel like you're dying every moment.
I go back to my cell and lay on a stone floor, and it's so comfortable and nice. And I really appreciate how good it gets the kinks out of my back. I really recommend it. But no, she is like take 7. I recognize her strong points in this, and now that there's real investment for me, now that my boyfriend's life is on the line, I'm gonna cut the shit and give her the credit where it's due. There's also a silly B plot going on here we should probably throw out about some sort of real world Voyager edition where Neelix and the Doctor are in a petty squabble about who's going to sing more.
They're all about to die from not having space gas, and the B plot is Neelix beefing with the Doctor about sleeping on his bio beds with the 3 random stand-in extras that got paid to be on camera that day.
But no lines.
It feels very out of place. Yeah, no lines, as is tradition.
Just facial expressions. I would have enjoyed if Neelix had been like, the last time I was on this bed, I was getting a lung from my child girlfriend installed.
Or I was getting euthanized by Captain Janeway.
Oh man, what a mind fuck. Yeah. Last time I was sleeping in this room, it was a gas chamber where I was executed.
Yep.
But you know what? We know Neelix likes being abused. He's a masochist, so of course he would pick that bed to sleep in.
It brings back those sweet memories of Death's Embrace.
The Great Forest.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I gotta hand it to the Doctor. I love how much of a bitch he has been in this scene. Like, lights, maximum illumination, and he's singing and plunking stuff down as hard as he can on the counter and stuff. I'm just loving it. Absolutely loving it.
I mean, this ultimately is a pretty potentially dark and scary episode, especially up to this point, because we haven't had a big twist yet. So this is the comic relief aspect of what is, a fairly dark and dismal episode, right?
The next revelation is seven. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just had to throw another Tuvix reference in there. With you get Neelix.
We got plenty of room for those in this podcast, man.
You've come to the right place.
You get Neelix.
You're in the right port of call.
You get Neelix doing some reverse passive aggressive stuff to the Doctor, right? And he like threatens to do some singing and this sort of stuff. And he specifically references knowing a charming funeral dirge. And we know where that episode...
A Vulcan funeral dirge.
Yeah, sorry, a Vulcan
Vulcan
funeral dirge, which is specifically the one that he learns for when he and Tuvok are collecting plant specimens in Tuvix.
Ooh.
Oh my god!
Yeah, only other time it's referenced, and that's it. They have continuity.
Wow.
Kenneth Bewilder, you cheeky cad.
Oh, you cheeky fucker. You
Wow.
cheeky fucker.
Wow.
Oh.
Harry Kim's not the only one busting out previous episode knowledge.
That's it.
Oh, damn.
Mind blown.
That is a quality pick up there, Tarran. Well done.
That
was only on
you've
rewatch number
changed
4.
my you know what? Your dedication to Sparkle Motion is 100% like certifiable. Bless you, sir. After that mind-blowing revelation that Tuvix is canon and not forgotten, they find Tom Paris, just chilling without a environmental suit because there's only 2, and they're like, "Hey Tom, how you feeling, buddy? You should be totally dead right now." And he's like, "I'm great. I've just started a vegan diet. I've got more energy.
I'm doing
been hitting the gym. I'm doing CrossFit. Yeah. He's an annoying CrossFit guy. Have I told you about the atmosphere of this planet? Just take your helmet off. It's great. It'll feel great.
You can cut pennies with them.
Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant, guys. You should do it." And they're like, "Yeah, Tom, how about we don't do that? And instead, why don't you show us where Harry is? And I swear you can box jump the whole way back to sickbay." Like,
Chakotay be like, "Okay, Tom, that's a good proposal, but how about Plan B? I stun you like you're a fucking salamander crawling out of a pool of water with your children, and I drag your unconscious body back to the ship again." This is like a really interesting tone that they play this off, because this could be some super top shelf space horror, and they play it off like, okay, well, something's kind of not right, but it's like, man, if I was Starfleet and I saw my buddy come around the corner breathing toxic hell gas and be like, "Yeah, man, take your helmet off," like, I don't know, kind of Event Horizon shit just went through you, but I bet if I shot you with a phaser, your fucking head would explode like a water balloon and like scorpions would come out. Like, there is something, if they had done some sinister music or a little bit of different lighting, I mean, we would be talking about just some straight up horror movie situation.
But then if that wasn't enough as well, his story of like, yeah, we blacked out and then we woke up. And it was fucking hilarious. We laughed and laughed. Like, what is that?
I mean, once the face hugger fell off and I could talk again, just the giggles didn't stop.
Oh my goodness.
So they get him back to the ship. They beam him in, and we're splitting hairs or whatever, but when you've got 2 crew members who should have had their faces melted off from like the acid gas beaming them directly into sickbay where the captain is standing, shared air, like no quarantine field or anything. Seems like some pretty sloppy operating procedures, even for Voyager. But for the second time, Tom Paris finds himself without breath and clawing at his throat, a la, again, Threshold, because wouldn't you know it, Tom can't breathe normal air again.
What as turns out has happened to our they're now imprisoned in sickbay because they have been imprisoned by the planet.
Prison episode.
Yeah, I had to find a way to make it. Yeah, we did it. What the doctor explains is that the planet has terraformed them into essentially adapting to the environment. Their DNA has been changed so they can only breathe the atmosphere outside, that it isn't toxic to them anymore. And he doesn't actually have a way, A, to fix it quite yet, or B, how to replicate the atmosphere. So they literally can't leave until they fix this, or they'd have to leave them behind. So that becomes kind of the urgency behind the episode from that point forward, is they're gassing the ship up, they're getting the fuel that they need, but they also need to now solve the issue of, we've got a
Little
demon planet, Tom and Harry, because God forbid we ever run into another space prison and we don't have Tom around to fashion a shiv out of a fucking pair of sunglasses or some shit like that. Like, we'd be all fucked.
Did you guys watching this through the first time instantly think, where's Seven? Why isn't she walking through the door and injecting him with nanoprobes to fix that whole problem, though?
No, I didn't, damn it. And thank you for crushing me by reminding me that's probably what they should have done, Peter.
I would have liked to see Tuvok come in and been like, well, we left you and Chakotay behind. Let's just leave these clowns too. Like, we're willing to leave the captain and the XO. Let's get rid of the fucking convict and the man-child. Give him that pet monkey. Let's get some silver in its blood, and that monkey can cock block Paris.
Oh God, the cock block monkey.
Yeah.
I forget who posted the video of them all talking about how stupid that episode is. Like, all the actors at some fucking convention, or like with Kate Mulgrew being like, "Can you believe they wrote an episode where a fucking monkey cock blocks Chakotay?" That is some embarrassing shit.
Kate Mulgrew says that. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. They're all fucking dying, like her, like explaining the episode the exact same way that we saw it. Like.
You got to find that and put that in the show notes. I got to check that out. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, we can. It's in the trauma support group. I think this is a really good plot development. Obviously, there's going to be a radical twist towards the end, but this is familiar territory. Like we said in Threshold, Tom had this bioforming thing. We did do whatever Little House on the Little House on the Prairie episode called, where Janeway and Chakotay are stuck behind. So like, it feels like we're retreading old ground. I'm not really questioning it. It's like, okay, so how are they going to undo what's, the sinister silver, as they'll call it later on, the silver blood. They go out to try and get some more answers and get the deuterium. They leave Tom on the ship, and both Tom and Harry are very keen to get back out on the planet. They don't want to be on the ship, and it's not like crazy time like it is sometimes when we've got crew members under alien influence are like, no, I must push this button. You're like, you can't push that button. It's going to freeze everybody to death. But I must push the button right now. They're just like, yeah, man, I don't want to be here. I want to be out. They get back out, and as they're crawling around on the surface, it's Seven and Chakotay and Kim. They find some life forms, and I really enjoyed the fact that they're like, oh, we found life on the planet. Let's get our guns out and go find them with our award-winning hospitality a la Voyager.
Yeah, it's
so they go off on so they don't get the wrong idea. Whoever these other people are, they don't get the wrong idea and think that we're here for anything other than to steal their space rocks. And they turn the corner. They get Chakotay and 7 of 9 out of frame so they can move the suits onto other people, and they find 2 Federation crew members laying on the floor, and it is none other than another Kim and another Paris. And boy, doesn't other Kim look surprised.
He does a great job of showing like genuine shock of what the hell is going on here.
Mike, you had something to say?
You can cut this out. We can talk about it later because it's going to be more topical. But I was going to say, this is essentially like a first contact scenario. They basically have found new life. I think earlier in the episode they say, the Federation, class Y planets or demon class planets, don't harbor any life, and basically they end up effectively like torturing and basically being complete assholes to these life forms. But I think that's going to be more topical when Janeway is effectively torturing clone Harry Kim later on. So we can talk about it then.
Well, I mean, we're almost there, so let's go ahead and cut to the chase. The sci-fi mindfuck of this episode is that the Harry Kim and Tom Paris that we, the viewer, have been given every reason to think are the quote-unquote real Harry Kim and Tom Paris are, in fact, not. Okay? And usually when we get these kind of body swapper, body snatcher, impersonator plots, it's usually like clear black hats are the ones doing that, right? And the cool twist on this episode is that's not the case. What they convey is a level of uncertainty, a level of like confusion on the part of the Tom and Harry that they have versus the ones that seem to be in a coma that they have refound. And the situation escalates because the silver goo starts to suck the entire ship down below the surface, and the not Harry and not Tom are still acting like Harry and Tom, but they clearly have like an otherness to them of knowing things or feeling things they shouldn't otherwise know or feel.
A word I would use to describe this, if it wasn't a tainted word, is they have activated.
Yes. They have some awareness of their otherness, and the episode climaxes in a situation where, in an effort to get to the bottom of what was going on in the most violent way possible, or like conflict-oriented way possible, is that Janeway beams Harry, the not Harry, back into the transporter room and starts demanding answers. And when answers are not forthcoming, starts using basically
torture,
space lasers to torture the goo to make him talk. And that's when they finally let loose with the twist, which is this is a first contact situation. Yeah. And what Tom and Harry accidentally did is made the goo sentient. Oops. That's a prime directive breach. A little bit, boys.
Yet another episode where Voyager or some member of the crew is responsible for the creation of an entire sentient species. And maybe, spoilers, we're going to kill them all.
Is Janeway a god? Is she like a Q and she doesn't know it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, to these people, she literally gave them thought.
They keep creating sentient species. I mean, yeah.
I think it works. It's good. It's not like this is Harry bungling around in the space spider asteroid episode and telling people that God's not real or whatever he got into there. Like, this silver goo got through their suit, and again, the body doubles not being malicious. Janeway's space lasers in this wasn't to specifically torture or harm. It was to try and get this goo stuff to back the fuck up off Voyager so they could fly away and get out of there. So it's a very interesting dynamic going on. And what supports this entire exchange is, again, it's radical sci-fi, which is fun. It was a plot twist I wasn't expecting. And it's some uncharacteristic excellent exchange between Garrett and Kate Mulgrew, the Harry Kim clone, and Janeway. And I think Janeway really does a good job of pressing the like, let us go and we'll talk, and them saying, no, we can't let you go. And like, nobody's really the bad guy and no one's really willing to back down. And I think it plays a good tension.
Everyone is a little panicked. Everyone's a little scared. Everyone acts that way. And I agree. This is probably the best scene Garrett Wang and Kate Mulgrew have shared in the entire series. And
Hands down.
Garrett Wang does a great job of, once like the explanation emerges, of like he seems to put it together and explains it like in the moment. Like he didn't get it until then. He's like, oh, that's what happened. I'm a copy of him in every single way possible. And what happened is that, you know, I was aware, you know, or whatever I was aware, and then I encountered Harry and I was able to like synthesize that into sentience, to go from instinct to thought. And I you know, like I want more of that. Like I want to have more thought and more of this happening. What happens next is crazy, but Mike, why don't you go ahead and unload first?
Well, I was just going to say, do you think the clone of Harry Kim likes to dream of his mother's womb when he's lying in bed with his weird mask on?
I think even more so. Like he's, you know, he thinks of the pool. He thinks of the pool of silver.
I thought you were going to ask if he dreams of electric sheep, because when you were just talking about, you know, what he wants more of, my thought was, you know, he could have been like, I want more life, fucker, in a Rucker Hauer moment. But everything up to this point,
pour one out for Rucker Hauer.
Everything up to this point, excellent sci-fi. And again, I really feel there's a lot of parallels in this episode to Threshold, because you're like, all right, man, this all works. This is good sci-fi. And they're like, yeah, look at that. Well, that was a really good plot twist, wasn't it? You know, he's a salamander, and he's, you know, in a salamander form. They're really clones, and they just want life. They don't want any trouble. This is a first contact. This is going to be a good interaction with them. Yeah. Okay. So how do we solve this? Or, you know, we got 20 seconds left to the episode. All right, great. The whole crew is going to clone themselves and be left behind on the surface. What?
Well, I don't know whether you guys picked it up right, but she's like, what do you want? He's like, we want DNA. And then she's like, right, get everyone to the cargo bay. We're going to straight out the airlock.
Insert new porn parody theme music here.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, God.
We now need to share our DNA.
Bukkake
Could have very
planet.
easily been a 2-part episode, because, like I said, everything up to this has been good bottle and episode format, until you reach this last part where we want to clone the people on your ship. And Janeway, like, cool, we'll just give you the DNA material so you can clone. And, you know, they'll have to agree to it. And they're like, yeah, cool. But when Voyager ends up flying away from the surface, like, the whole fucking crew worth of clones is now down on the surface.
And the year have held them.
Everything that we have seen about Starfleet is like, individuality is a big deal. People do not like the idea of being cloned or duplicated, and they have very negative reactions to anything like that. So to like rush through the last 5 seconds of the episode where Janeway somehow, like, that could have been an excellent episode in and of itself, of like, hey, do you want to let this happen? But the end result is Voyager leaves, and there's now a colony of Starfleet Maquis personnel on Demon Planet out in the Delta Quadrant.
I didn't see any food.
It's literally just everybody get into the cargo bay. You're getting cloned by the space goo we barely understand. I just had a conversation with a clone of my ops officer who says it's totally cool, and he just wants to have more people to talk to. So you put on your daddy pants. You about to be a metal person.
T1000, you're a T1000, and you're a T1000, you're a T1000.
No discussion, no ramification check.
We're pretty sure it's not going to give you cancer.
Directive? Nah, just all right. And then that's it. They just cut away to just, here's a whole bunch of people on this planet now.
Yeah,
bye.
With no supplies.
Back to the Alpha Quadrant. Hopefully this has no consequences.
I would have loved to have seen the entire, the Terminator crew waving as the ship flew off. That would have just finished it off nicely for me.
Oh, better yet would be like a thumbs up, you know? Like
sinking into the,
Yeah.
No, the thumbs up you get is back in the med bay where B'Elanna had her thumb accidentally cloned.
Oh, yeah.
That's that thumb
right.
going down into the
that.
Petri dish.
Yeah.
Who agreed to be cloned? Who did not agree? Like, there's been, again, so many episodes where there's a big stink about, like, I don't want my material floating around out there. Like, this is just a crazy, what are these, 45 minutes? Like, 44 minutes and 30 seconds, like, decisions of how are we going to change this? And I'm okay with it. I'm happy to know that there are more Harry Kim. There's now 3 Harry Kims in this universe. I think we could have some very dark discussions about, like, what if there was a double cross and they're like, hey, listen, put these guys on ice. We can use them for, like, Orvin harvest, and we can, like, trade them to Vidians if we ever see those guys again. Let's hang around on the surface of the planet for, like, a couple weeks and figure out if there's not a way to somehow get, like, respirators going, and maybe we bring some of these crew members along, since we're super limited on dilithium experts and Tuvox and everything else. Like, the death, what was it? Death. We called it Death Clock. It was Deathlock, where the Vidians successfully raid Voyager and kill everybody, and it's like a super brutal episode. But for a minute there, it looked like there could be 2 crews. That's when where Harry Kim gets cloned. Like, now is your chance to, like, replenish the crew stocks. And the biggest question we should be asking ourselves is, when they were handing over genetic data, is there any chance in hell we had old tissue samples of Lon Suter or Seska laying around?
This was our way to get him back.
Oh,
we really missed out. We could have had Lon Suter with T1000 upgrades.
Oh gosh, Seska with T1000, man.
His arms would become the metal pipes.
They could have cloned an army of Lon Suters. Like, right, how many pipes we got on this ship? 100 spare pipes? Right, 100 Suters. That's our fucking army. Bam.
They just go back to the Borg, and then, like, you thought the Space Mewtwo's were bad, and they just open the back of the ship, right? And it's just all these Lon Suters double fisting pipes just flying at them like Data and in Nemesis.
Think about
trying to, like, warp away, like, it would have been beautiful.
Think about how much energy you could save. Since this is ultimately an energy conservation episode, like, how much energy you could save if you didn't have to have shields up anymore. Because if people beam on the ship, there's no way in hell they're going to be happy once those pipes start flying and hit them in the head. Yeah, I mean, that another great way for them to have brought back. Are there any characters that have died that we care? That's another thing. Like, okay, hey, here's people that died that we did genuinely like. The guy that died in the Kazon raids, that Chakotay was a mining company. Like, you can't say, like, I don't like the idea of them being brought back to life. Like, if you're letting yourself get cloned, why wouldn't let your dead friend get cloned and know that somewhere, maybe not serial killer Lon Suter or crazy Seska, but somewhere the guy that Lon Suter busted upside the head with the pipe in the first place, that he's alive and out there.
But go back to even earlier than that. You've lost your entire medical staff, and you're relying on one doctor who doesn't want to seem to do the job half the time, which is fair enough. Surely, if they've still got Lon Suter's DNA and Seska's DNA and everyone else's DNA, chances are they're going to have original crew DNA somewhere. Maybe they could scrape it off the floor in their old quarters or something like that, and you may even be able to resurrect your entire medical staff.
Yeah, or if they, well, I mean, I think it's fair to say that they can't bring these people on the ship to leave, but if you take it from, like, the cut down a tree and plant a tree, they could take all the dead Kazon that were still on left over after the failed raid and just throw them out there and be like, here, you can be a new Kazon colony, enjoy that life.
Peter, what if I told you, out of all the episodes of Star Trek Voyager, with all of that has these endings, these nebulous, weird endings that I always remark on, of like, they never follow up on this. What if I told you, Peter, that this episode gets a sequel?
I would tell you that I'm very pissed off that you spoiled such an excellent surprise. If it weren't for the fact that while I was reading the goddamn Memory Alpha, which I forgot even existed, like, we've been flying solo with Picard for so long, I'm like, oh right, I'm supposed to, like, do homework for these things. I saw that and there's like, damn it, that would have been, like, a really good surprise. But of course the Netflix capsule would have ruined it anyways. But that is a I'm fucking psyched to see that episode. Like, what a wild Pandora's box of possibilities that episode could be.
I got to be honest, this episode, looking at it as a two-parter, as someone who has watched the rest of Voyager a couple of dozen times,
it's okay. I'm here for you. Look at me.
This episode,
I'm here for you.
I enjoy, but I enjoy it more because it's got the next one. That's what closes this off perfectly for me, and it does it in such a way that I'm not going to say any more because I'll spoil it.
Yeah, they do a good job. We'll say that it's a good one.
I think as a sci-fi episode, we've got a lot of good high concept stuff. As a Star Trek exploration, dudes in space suits on inhospitable planets, that's good. There's no weak acting at any point. I enjoy Neelix being tormented by Tuvok, his mother's blankets being clutched out of his hand. So there's a lot of like legit good stuff in there. And as far as like podcasting fun, like the what the fuck moment there at the end where they're just like, yeah, sure, have our DNA, see you later. That is infinitely excellent. This episode's got it all. 10 out of 10 would podcast again.
Yeah, I mean, after 7 weeks of having my balls absolutely just kicked in over and over and over again watching Picard, even the largest complaints about this episode are trivial in comparison. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed having my wife experience the batshit loco fucking ending with me and be like, "The fuck? There's just metal people now? What is this? What's going on?"
You even get Tom and B'Elanna romance through B'Elanna's like concern, without actually having to see Tom and B'Elanna on the screen together at the same time. Like,
and that's the best way to see them.
Yeah. I forget how we do these podcasts, Joe. What happens next?
I was going to ask Mike if he has anything to leave us on here.
Well, are we finished reviewing the episode?
We are.
So, I got a bit of a surprise for you guys. So this is going to be.
You're a metal person.
He is. He's been cloned,
and the real you flew away back to his planet.
I wish. No. The real me is very, very much, Australian. No. Look, I was going to say, I got a bit of a surprise for you guys. So it's your 100th episode, right? So I very, very stealthily sent a message to every single person in the trauma support group. And got banned from Facebook a couple of times. So thanks to the people that reported me for spam. But basically, I sent a message to every single person and said, "Hey, the 100th episode's coming up. There's a bit of a GoFundMe. Do you want to kick in some money for a bit of a surprise?" And I'm going to send you guys a link in our Google Hangout, and I'd like you to click on it, and I'd like you to just have a look at that.
Okay. Is this going to give me coronavirus?
100%.
Well, hopefully not.
Is this Robert Picardo having some sort of an interaction? Oh.
Joseph and Peter, it's Robert Picardo, and I understand that you are celebrating 100 episodes of Voyager, Please. A hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant. Why does that sound familiar? Anyway, all of your fans of your podcast want to wish you congratulations, as do I. And I want to share a very brief story with you. In one episode where Mr. Tuvok had a dream that he appeared naked on the bridge, Tim Russ, as a joke for his fellow castmates, had gone to wardrobe, gotten a large black knee sock, had stuffed it, and how should I say this? Under his privacy robe, he had attached it to a certain area of his body, so that during the take, when the reaction was on all of the other members of the crew, Tim was behind the camera, he removed his robe and revealed, how shall I say this, his enhanced manhood. Of course, everyone cracked up on camera, except for the doctor, because I was so in character, I figured, I'm his doctor. I've already seen it. Congratulations on 100 episodes.
Guys, that was fucking awesome. I can't. What the? Holy shit!
I'm glad nobody told you guys. They're very good at keeping a secret. So If you want to see the people responsible, I'll post you guys the GoFundMe. But there you go. Happy 100th episode, guys. Well done.
Mike, Tarran, it's
fucking amazing, man. That's really
fucking
cool.
Great. Oh, guys, I that is cool that you guys did that. Like,
so what we just saw was a personal recorded message from Robert Picardo, the EMH, addressing Joe and I, congratulating us on our 100th episode of a hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant, which he shares our pain, and telling a story about Tim Russ's big dick, man. That's fucking cool. That's really fucking cool, guys. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, that's everything.
Thank you to everybody else out there that played ball and reported Mike to Facebook Gestapo. It's a team effort. Wow, that's really cool. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you to everyone who contributed to this. And Mike, Tarran, from the bottom of my heart, that was
black wretched thing.
It is tiny and filled with coronavirus as it might be. I thank you both. That was so cool.
It was.
That was so cool.
That guy, what a fucking champ! Like of all those things he could have said, he absolutely nailed it. What a gentleman.
Yeah, like he read whatever you sent him and be like, I know exactly the story these motherfuckers want on this thing.
They want to hear about Tim Russ's dick.
They want to Tim Russ's dick. Oh, God bless you. Robert Picardo, you're a fucking hero. I love this cameo thing. Like, that's cool that's a thing you can get done that way. That's great. Oh, all right. What? I don't know what to do. What? Oh yeah. Our next episode, Peter.
Speaking
what are we
Robert
watching?
Picardo.
Yeah. What are we watching next week?
Crawling through a Jeffries tube. He's got a 7 of 9. Crawling behind him. Season 4, episode 25. 1. An unavoidable poisonous nebula forces the entire crew into stasis chambers, all except the unaffected doctor and 7 of 9, who are going to save the crew again. This time without Leonardo da Vinci holodeck program settings, maybe. I don't know. Oh, it's good to be back here, man. It's uplifting, and I'm glad we were able to come back to the Delta Quadrant and Voyager in good company.
Absolutely, in great company indeed. Mike, Tarran from Hail and Well Met and the Shorts podcasts, thanks again for being part of our 100th episode. And man, I can't thank you enough for the special treat that you and apparently many of our listeners put together for us via Robert Picardo, man. Like, that's great. This show has been a delight to do. It has been fun as hell to build a community of listeners. And here is to another 100 episodes after this, our sanity willing.
Well, thank you very much for having us, and I've enjoyed every single second of this podcast. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having us on the show, and thanks for including us, and just thanks for letting us be a part of what is a loving and hating, episode.
Yeah, we hate, but we hate with love.
We do.
Well,
we hate.
We love, we hate.
But we hate with love.
Yeah.
I like it. And next week we'll both love and hate whatever the fuck this episode with the one is.
I like it.
See you then, guys.
See ya.
See you guys.
Shut up and beam him back.
Oh yeah.
It's a two-man operation now.
Can you get my soul back in? That'd be great, thanks.
Bad news when you guys return back to Australia because someone's got a flower. It's gonna be Myran. Would that be the conjunction of your names?
Oh yeah, that's
Myran.
Oh my god.
It would have double neck beard.